If someone had told me a single typo on the guest list would turn me into a bride, I wouldn't have believed it. It started with a wrong envelope. A white silk textured invitation card slid beneath the door of Lena Mercado's cramped apartment in downtown Wharf, addressed with elegant cursive to a name that wasn't hers. To S. Serrano, your presence is requested. Lena squinted, already halfway through her second coffee and not in the mood for a mistake. But something about the embossed gold initials and the opulence of the design made her pause. She hadn't RSVP'd to anything in years, least of all a wedding. Her friends were broke artists, cynical about love, and her own dating life was a slow-burning train wreck. Even so, the envelope snagged her attention, partly because it smelled like roses and champagne, and because the signature at the bottom read Genevieve Armenville-Court. Lena blinked. That name wasn't just rich, it was legendary. Heirs of the Vilcourt estate, one of New Avalon's old families, French by blood, Crown Isle by instinct. Lena had heard it only in whispers, seen it in magazines, and in one particularly vicious podcast episode about power lesbians with diamond rings and ice gold smiles. Genevieve was a ghost, an icon, and absolutely, unmistakably out of reach. Lena shrugged. Curiosity was a terrible impulse, but her landlord still hadn't fixed the heating. Her latest gallery application had been rejected, and her bank account balanced at exactly $1,142. So, when she showed up to the location printed in gold, an ethereal countryside villa just outside of River Haven, wrapped in autumn leaves and champagne flats, she told herself it was just to crash the party, steal a glass of expensive wine, and disappear. Except the moment she stepped onto the gravel path, dressed in a second-hand white dress she thought made her look ironically bridal, a woman with a headset rushed toward her. Finally, the woman hissed, grabbing her arm. "We've been waiting. Genevieve is going to lose it if we don't start in 5. Lena opened her mouth. "I think there's no time," the woman snapped, already pulling her toward the side entrance of the villa. "Dress is perfect. Hair's good enough. Just smile and act like you're not about to faint." Lena's heart began to pound. "Wait, I'm not." But she never got to finish because the doors opened. And there, at the far end of the camelot aisle, framed by golden leaves and guests in tailored suits, stood Genevieve Armenville-Court in a tuxedo white as bone, tall and terrifying, her eyes like cut glass and her jaw sharper than any reason Lena could summon to explain this nightmare. Genevieve stared, not at the crowd, not at the velvet petals sprinkled down the aisle, at her, at me, and for a single breathless moment, the entire villa held its breath. Lena didn't know how she ended up walking forward. Her limbs moved of their own accord, her mouth dry, her mind screaming. She wanted to turn back, explain a mistake, demand someone let her go. But every step closer to Genevieve made that desire blur, drown, collapse under the force of Genevieve's gaze. Genevieve didn't look shocked. She looked annoyed, bruised, and then finally amused. Her lips twitched. "You're not Sabine Serrano," she said under her breath, barely moving her mouth. "No shit," Lena hissed, frozen beside her at the makeshift altar. "Can we undo this before someone calls security?" "They're already filming," Genevieve replied, nodding toward the far end of the room where 3 cameramen were documenting every angle. "And my mother just sat down. If we stop now, she'll assume I had another breakdown." "Wait," another Lena whispered. "Long story. You're part of it now." Genevieve turned toward the officiant with a serene smile, curling her hand around Mess as if they were lifelong lovers. "Just play along," she murmured. And suddenly, the force of Genevieve's presence wrapped around Lena like a velvet noose. Warm, choking, magnetic. Lena couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't even remember how to walk away. She stood there shaking, playing bride to a stranger with fire in her voice and frosted her eyes, pretending not to want to disappear, or worse, stay. When the fake vows began, when Genevieve squeezed her hand just a little too tight, when the audience clapped as if they were witnessing some romantic lenicle, Lena did the only thing she could do. She smiled and told herself this was temporary. Just one performance. Just a little white lie. But from the moment Genevieve leaned in and whispered in her ear, "You're not boring," that's new. Lena knew she had just stepped into something dangerous and she wasn't sure she wanted out. She looked just like her. That was the first thought in Genevieve Armenvillecourt's mind as Lena Mercado stood beside her. At the altar, wide-eyed and furious, holding her hand like it was covered in thorns. Not similar, not close, no identical. The same unruly curls, the same sharp cheekbones, the same soft curve of the mouth that trembled when nervous. For a moment, Genevieve almost believed Sabine Serrano had come back. That she'd walked through those doors at the last possible second to reclaim the ceremony. She'd abandoned 3 days ago without a single word. But no, this woman wasn't Sabine. Her gaze didn't flicker with guilt or calculation. It burned with confusion and defiance. And when she finally dragged Genevieve into the hallway after the ceremony, the illusion shattered for good. "You have 5 seconds to explain what kind of psychotic circus this is," Lena hissed, yanking her hand out of Genevieve's. "Who the hell do you think I am?" "I thought you were Sabine Serrano," Genevieve replied, eyes narrowed, voice cool. "You're not, obviously, but you look enough like her to fool half the people in that room. So your plan was what? Bait and switch. Hope no one noticed your runaway bride got a haircut and a breakdown. She didn't tell anyone she left, not even her mother. And unfortunately for both of us, you stepped into a fantasy that was barely holding together." Lena stared at her. "You're insane." "Maybe," Genevieve said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But you didn't run. You stood there. You smiled. And now you're part of this. I look like someone you were supposed to marry. That doesn't mean I want to keep playing the role." "You are wearing white," Genevieve said simply. "And you walked in just in time. Because I got the wrong invitation. Or the right one," Genevieve murmured. "Fate's got a cruel sense of humor." Lena inhaled sharply. "Let me go now." "Not yet," Genevieve said. "We have to make it through the reception. Just a few hours. Then you can vanish into the sunset and I'll deal with the headlines." Lena folded her arms. "And if I refuse, then you'll be remembered as the woman who humiliated the Villecourt family in front of 1,000 live viewers and international press. You kidnapped me into a wedding. You had every opportunity to walk away. I thought I was hallucinating, and now you're not. You're here and for the next few hours you're mine." The reception was decadent, unbearable, and glowing with opulence. Golden chandeliers shimmered over tables draped in ivory silk. Waiters passed trays of champagne flutes and edible roses. A quartet played soft classical music as guests posed for photographs. Blissfully unaware that the woman on Genevieve's arm was a stranger, Lena had never felt so out of place in her life. But Genevieve was a master of performance. She draped her hand around Lena's waist with effortless elegance, leaned in to whisper dry jokes in her ear, smiled for every flash of a camera. "My wife, Lena," she introduced again and again as if she weren't lying through her teeth. Lena kept nodding, smiling, sipping champagne she couldn't pronounce. But she also kept watching Genevieve. The composure, the chill in her voice, the way her jaw tightened every time someone said Sabine's name. And it didn't escape me that more than once people had done double takes when they looked at her. That strange flicker in their eyes like they were looking at a ghost. She didn't just resemble Sabine. She was Sabine's mirror. It explained everything. The mistake, the rush, the assumption, and the glint of pain in Genevieve's otherwise emotionless expression. Lena didn't know why Sabine had vanished, but she knew this much. Genevieve was acting indifferent and doing a poor job of it. Hours later, as the Villecourt estate sank into golden dusk, Genevieve drew her into a hushed corridor. "Upstairs," she murmured. So Lena trailed after her reluctant, heels aching, thoughts racing. The bedroom they entered was vast. Flowers everywhere, silk-draped sheets, mirrors that looked too costly to lay a finger on. "Are you going to kill me now?" Lena asked. or seduce me out of spite? Neither, Genevieve said without meeting her gaze. We're going to talk. That's new. This is temporary. Genevieve folded her arms. But it has to read as real. People are watching. Contracts are signed. Photos already went out. If we split now, I lose everything. Everything meaning what? My public standing, the endorsements, the estate, the charities we pledged to support together. You think love factored into this wedding? Lena stared. You're truly that cold. I'm practical, Genevieve snapped. I don't come undone when someone disappears. I adjust. You want me to keep up the act? Yes. For a few weeks. Stay here. Be seen beside me. We'll stage a honeymoon. Post pictures. Share private jokes in public. Hold hands where it counts. I'll pay you. And when I walk away, you'll have your money. I'll say we separated quietly. You'll be remembered kindly. Lena said nothing at first, pulse hammering. This had slid past performance into trespass, a life she didn't belong to. A woman she couldn't decipher, a bargain she never sought. Yet the word no stuck in her throat. Maybe it was Genevieve's voice, low and commanding. Maybe it was the heaviness in her eyes, the hurt she was trying badly to bury. Maybe it was that Genevieve wasn't looking at her like she was Sabine. She was seeing someone else entirely, someone unexpected, someone she hadn't prepared for. Lena stepped in closer. You need me to be Sabine without being Sabine. I need you to be believable. And when this ends, you erase me. Genevieve's expression flickered just a beat. Yes, fine, Lena said, but I'm not counterfeiting affection. What's that supposed to mean? It means if you want the illusion flawless, Lena said, lifting a hand to smooth a stray strand behind Genevieve's ear. You're going to have to make me actually like you. Genevieve went still. Lena smiled. For once, Genevieve had no immediate answer. By morning, Lena woke in a bed worth more than her entire apartment. The silk twisted around her calves was indecently soft, like sleeping inside a kept secret. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows, gilding carved wood and quiet gold flourishes in a room that clearly wasn't hers. She wasn't Sabine Serrano. She wasn't a Valcourt. She wasn't a socialite, an Aries, or anyone photographers would bother to frame. She was a broke wharf artist who had wandered into the wrong ceremony. And yet here she was, Lena Mercado, pretend wife to Genevieve Armand Valcourt, the most formidable woman she'd ever faced. The performance had to begin today. Breakfasts, hand-holding, conversations in front of staff, public appearances. Genevieve had laid it all out last night with chilling efficiency, like she'd already calculated every risk and reward. The performance had begun. Lena slid out of bed, wrapped herself in a robe someone had monogrammed with GV, and padded into the hallway. The estate was quiet to quiet. Ornate furniture stood like statues in grand corridors, and the air smelled of lavender and old money. She descended the curved staircase and walked into the dining room and stopped dead in her tracks. Genevieve was already there, seated at the head of a long table, sipping coffee, reading the Financial Times like it was a weapon. She was wearing a black silk blouse, her dark hair pulled back into a perfect knot, and she didn't even glance up when she said, "You're late." "It's 8 o'clock in the morning," Lena replied. "I don't think anyone should be awake at this hour unless the house is on fire." Genevieve finally looked up. Her eyes scanned me like she was taking inventory. "You'll need better clothes. That robe looks like you stole it from a rich grandmother." "I did." "Charming. You're welcome." Genevieve folded the newspaper. "There's a schedule. This morning we're meeting with Adrien. He handles PR and social media. We'll need a story, a proposal, narrative, and origin." "You mean lies." "I mean strategy. Potato. Potato." Genevieve gestured toward the table. "Eat something. You look like you survive on espresso and resentment." Lena sat down. "I do. It's called flavor." There were fresh croissants, sliced fruit, and small jars of jam arranged like an art piece. Lena grabbed a croissant and bit into it, then groaned. This is offensive. No one should be allowed to eat something this good without being in love. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments on a scale from 0 to 10. What score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. Genevieve didn't react, but Lena saw the corner of her mouth twitch. The meeting with Adrienne took place in the library, a room full of first editions, oil portraits, and what looked like a centuries-old globe that could probably spin out a map to hell. Adrienne was tall, French, and disturbingly enthusiastic. "We're going with fated lovers," he declared. "You met at a gallery." Lena was exhibiting an installation. Genevieve attended by accident. They argued over the meaning of a painting. Then Lena threw a glass of wine on someone and Genevieve fell in love. "Did I win the argument?" Lena asked. "Of course not," Genevieve said without looking at her. Adrienne grinned. "We'll do a photo shoot this week. Casual couple moments holding hands in the garden. Maybe baking together." "I burn pasta," Lena muttered. "Even better. Authentic. Can we skip the baking?" Genevieve said flatly. Adrienne clapped his hands. "Perfect. You're both already annoyed. It's realistic. People love messy lesbians in love." "We're not in love," they said at the same time. Adrienne smiled wider. "Even better." That night, Lena stood on the balcony outside their shared bedroom. Yes, shared bedroom. And stared at the moon. The estate was quiet again, lit softly by garden lights, and the occasional flicker of staff cleaning up from whatever luxurious event had just taken place in another wing. She heard the door open behind her. Genevieve stepped out barefoot for once, wearing only a silk robe, her hair undone. She didn't look like a socialite right now. She looked tired. "Human. Do you hate this yet?" she asked. Lena turned. "I'm still deciding. You? I hated it long before you arrived." They stood in silence. The air was crisp, scented faintly with rose and pine. "Why did she leave?" Lena asked suddenly. Sabine Genevieve's jaw tensed. "She said I didn't make her feel anything anymore. That I was all ice, no fire. That I loved her like a contract." "Did you?" "I don't know." Genevieve looked out at the garden. She was beautiful, clever, selfish. I never said no to her. And in the end, she still wanted more. And now you've replaced her with a stranger who looks like her. You're not Sabine, but I remind you of her. You're not her. Genevieve turned to me, their eyes locked. Something fragile, something new passed between them. "You're louder, Rudder. You ask too many questions. You eat like you've been starving for days. And you make me feel like I'm constantly losing control." Lena's breath hitched. "Is that a compliment?" "It's a warning." Genevieve stepped closer. "Don't start believing this is anything but a lie. I'm not the one blurring the lines." Lena whispered. Genevieve was too close now. Her eyes were unreadable. Her lips parted slightly. "Go to bed. Lena, say please. Don't push me." "Why not?" Lena said, her voice soft but steady. "Afraid I'll make you feel something, too." Genevieve stared at her for a long, silent second, then turned and walked back inside without a word. Lena remained on the balcony, her pulse racing. The game had started, and no one was faking anymore. The first photo shoot was scheduled for noon, but by 10 a.m. Lena was already regretting every decision that had brought her here, including but not limited to answering the wrong wedding invitation, saying yes to a fake marriage, and agreeing to wear a pale lavender dress so soft and sheer she felt like a pastry. Genevieve hadn't spoken a word to her all morning. They'd shared a breakfast table, but not a conversation, just the clinking of silverware and the cold silence of two women, pretending not to remember the charged words exchanged on a balcony the night before. When Adrienne arrived, dressed in black, dramatic as always, he clasped his hands like a director welcoming his actors to the stage. "We start in the greenhouse," he announced. "Natural light, vintage romance, soft domestic fantasy. Think Sapphic Dreams sequence meets French Vogue. Lena blinked. Greenhouse. You'll love it, he said. Humidity is the secret to real chemistry. Genevieve appeared behind her, tall and terrifying in an off-white suit that hugged her body with unholy precision. Her eyes ran over M's dress, lingering for half a second too long before she turned to Adrienne. Let's get this over with. No, Adrienne said, wagging a finger. We're capturing eternal love, not filing taxes. I need longing. I need tension. I need the ache of 1,000 unspoken words. You'll get annoyance and barely disguised contempt, Genevieve muttered. Perfect, Adrienne beamed. The greenhouse was too warm, too bright, and full of orchids that looked like they were judging her. Lena stood under a canopy of flowering vines, her dress clinging to her in the heat, while Genevieve stood beside her like a sculpture carved out of restraint. Hold her waist, Adrienne said, camera snapping. Genevieve closer. Lena, look up at her like she's everything you've ever wanted but can't have. That's specific. Lena muttered. I'm inspired. Adrienne replied. Now hands. Touch her face. Lena slowly like she's fragile. Lena hesitated. Genevieve didn't move. The moment stretched. Too long. Too quiet. Lena lifted her hand, brushed her fingertips against Genevieve's cheek, felt the tension in her jaw, the heat under her skin, the sudden sharpness in her breath. Beautiful, Adrienne whispered. Now, Lena leaned in closer. Yes, right there, like you're about to kiss. Genevieve's hand curled around M's waist without warning. Firm, possessive. Lena's breath caught, their faces inches apart, eyes locked. And for a terrifying electric second, the world narrowed to nothing but the scent of Genevieve's perfume and the sound of her heartbeat, echoing against M's ribs. Adrienne's voice sliced through it. Perfect. Now kiss her neck. What? Softly, he added, with all the calm of a director asking for a wardrobe change. We need intimacy. Lena glanced at Genevieve, expecting a smirk or a refusal. But Genevieve didn't flinch. Her eyes didn't move. She was still waiting, daring. Lena leaned forward, just a brush of lips against skin. Barely contact, but it was enough. Genevieve's hand tightened for half a second. Her breath faltered and then she stepped back. That's enough, she said coldly. We have what we need. Adrienne pouted. But we were just getting to the bathtub scene. What? Lena blinked. Kidding. Adrienne grinned. Mostly back at the estate. Lena escaped to the rose garden the moment they were done. She needed air, space, sanity. Except, of course, Genevieve followed her. Why did you do that? Genevieve asked. Lena turned. Do what? The neck. You mean the thing the photographer asked me to do? The fake affection that's literally part of our deal. You didn't have to make it feel like something. Lena laughed bitterly. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the whole point was to make it believable. You're the one who said we needed this to be perfect. Genevieve stepped closer. Too close. It felt real. So don't do that again. Don't make you feel something? Lena said softly. Isn't that what she left you over? Genevieve's mouth hardened. You don't know anything about her. No, but I know what it's like to be kissed like it's an inconvenience. Genevieve's eyes darkened. What are you trying to prove? That I'm not her? Lena whispered. And maybe that terrifies you. The silence that followed was razor thin. She turned to go, but Genevieve caught her wrist. Stop doing that, Genevieve said. Doing what? Getting under my skin. Lena leaned in just far enough, then stopped letting me in. She slipped her hand free and walked away, heart thudding, skin burning. Somewhere between anger and heat, a line had been crossed, and both of them knew it. Later that night, as Lena slipped into one of the silk nightgowns someone had left on her side of the closet, she lingered on her reflection longer than usual. The low dip of the neckline, the curve of her waist, the look in her eyes, defiant and exposed at once. A knock at the door. She turned. Genevieve stood there, no suit, no armor, just a black camisole and silk pants, barefoot again, hair undone. I'm not Sabine, Lena said before Genevieve could speak. I know. Then stop treating me like her. You keep reminding me because you won't let yourself look at me properly. Genevieve stepped inside. Then show me who you are. I've been showing you since the moment I opened my mouth. Genevieve tilted her head. And yet I still don't know what you want. Maybe I want to stop pretending, Lena said. Pretending what? That none of this matters. That I'm only here for a paycheck. That you just need someone to fill a frame. Maybe I want you to see me. Actually see me, not her shadow. Genevieve's voice dropped. And if I do, then maybe, Lena said, stepping closer, we stop lying to ourselves first. Genevieve didn't move, didn't answer, just studied her like a puzzle she wasn't ready to solve. Breath unsteady, Lena stepped back before either of them said something they couldn't take back. Good night, Genevieve. Good night, Lena. Neither of them slept. The illusion was starting to choke her. Lena felt it in the way the estate breathed through its cold. Immaculate halls, every vase perfectly aligned, every curtain starched into submission, every corner quietly insisting she didn't belong. Days blurred into a loop of staged scenes, holding Genevieve's hand at brunches, where silence passed for grace, posing for photos with donors who never met her eyes, smiling until her jaw ached while the press labeled her the surprising muse of Valcourt. And still it wasn't the lies that wore her down. It was Genevieve. Genevieve, who touched her only when cameras required it, who watched her like an equation with too many unknowns, who spoke sparingly, with a surgeon's precision. Genevieve, who hadn't truly looked at her since the night on the balcony. It was as if they'd crossed a threshold neither would name, and now they clung to opposite walls, pretending they hadn't. But pretending wasn't going to be enough today. Not when Adrienne had arranged a press event at a private lake estate, owned by one of Genevieve's cousins. A weekend away, he'd said cheerfully. Intimate, luxurious, full of relaxed couple energy. Lena had barely agreed before the car was scheduled. And now here she was staring out the window of a chauffeured black SUV as trees blurred past. And Genevieve sat beside her, silent, reading emails like they weren't about to share a cabin and a bed. Do you ever take a break? Lena asked, more bitter than she meant to be. Genevieve didn't look up. Not when the world is watching. You do know we're not actually married, right? That we're allowed to act human when the cameras are off. Genevieve finally glanced at her. We don't get to be human. We get to be convincing. You're really exhausting. You know that. And you're really loud. Genevieve replied. Yet here we are. Lena rolled her eyes and stared out the window again. She hated how her skin buzzed every time Genevieve looked at her. The estate was predictably perfect. All glass walls and lakeside views and minimalist decadence. The guest room was just as beautiful, except for the single king-sized bed in the middle. There's only one bed, Lena said flatly. Adrienne said it made the most sense for optics. Genevieve replied, brushing past her toward the balcony. Don't worry, I won't touch you. Not even by accident. Lena challenged. Genevieve didn't answer. That night, they changed in silence. Lena wore another silk nightgown she hadn't chosen, soft and translucent in a way that felt intentional. Genevieve changed in the bathroom and emerged in a white sleep shirt. That looked criminally expensive. They slipped into opposite sides of the bed. Neither spoke. Minutes passed. The darkness hummed with what neither dared to say. And then a whisper. Are you still awake? Lena turned. Genevieve was facing her, eyes open, voice quiet. Unfortunately, I can't sleep. Guilt catching up to you. Something like that. A pause. You're not what I expected. Lena blinked. What did you expect? Someone quieter, more compliant, easier to manage. So, you wanted a doll. I thought I wanted a silence. But now it's strange. What is? You make everything feel like it's on fire. Lena's breath hitched. Is that a compliment? I haven't decided. Another silence. Longer, heavier. Do you think it would have worked? Lena asked suddenly. You and Sabine. No, Genevieve said without hesitation. She didn't love me. Not really. She loved the idea of being loved by me. And me, Lena whispered. What do I remind you of? Not her. That's what terrifies me. Lena shifted closer. Inches. You said you wouldn't touch me. I lied. Genevieve's hand moved slowly, cautiously. Her fingers brushed against him's wrist, soft and unsure. It wasn't lust. It wasn't performative. It was fragile, scared, real. Lena didn't pull away. She leaned in, forehead nearly touching Genevieve's. Her voice trembled when she spoke. We can't keep pretending this isn't happening. Genevieve closed her eyes. It's not supposed to, but it is. Lena, yes, I'm not ready to fall for someone new. Then don't fall. Just stay. Genevieve opened her eyes, and for the first time, there was no mask, no control, just a woman in the dark, breathing too fast, feeling too much. She leaned in. Their lips didn't meet, but they hovered there, close enough to feel the heat, close enough to ache. And then Genevieve whispered, "Good night," and rolled away. Lena stared at the ceiling, heart in chaos. She hadn't touched her, but she hadn't run either. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Lena didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, counting the seconds between breaths, between heartbeats, between the shifting weight of Genevieve's body beside her. The air was thick with the echo of everything that hadn't happened. The almost kiss, the trembling hands, the way Genevieve had looked at her like something fragile and flammable at once. She hadn't touched her again, but she also hadn't moved away. It was the kind of in-between that made Lena feel like she was being held underwater. And the worst part was knowing Genevieve was still awake, too. Her breath wasn't deep enough to be asleep. It was controlled, careful, mechanical, like a woman trying to outrun her own heartbeat. The sun hadn't yet broken the horizon when Genevieve sat up. Don't say anything, she said without looking at me. Just give me space. I haven't moved, Lena whispered. Genevieve got up and walked to the bathroom, closing the door behind her with a soft click of someone trying not to break a spell. Lena lay there in the stillness, her body alive with nerves, her chest aching with confusion. She had no idea what game Genevieve was playing or if it was even a game anymore. By the time they emerged for breakfast, Genevieve was back in full armor, crisp white linen shirt, tailored beige trousers, perfect posture, eyes blink. Lena followed her lead, dressed in a simple silk blouse Adrienne had picked, hair loose but brushed. The table was set on a balcony overlooking the lake where the water gleamed gold and quiet. A few photographers lingered discreetly in the background capturing candids. We're a painting, Adrienne said proudly as he arrived with an espresso in each hand. Romance, nature, light tension. I'm roused. Good for you, Lena muttered, sipping her coffee. Genevieve didn't speak. She just sat beside her, eyes on the lake, fingers clasped tightly in her lap. Lena leaned in slightly, just enough to murmur, "We should talk." "Not now," Genevieve said. "Not here." "So when? After the next fake honeymoon? After we pretend to adopt a golden retriever?" Lena, "Fine," she hissed, sitting back, jaw clenched. "Let's pretend some more." The rest of the day was a slow, agonizing performance. They walked the shoreline for staged couple photos, sat under an apple tree where Genevieve fed her grapes for one particularly vomit-inducing shot, and endured interviews about how love finds you when you least expect it. Lena wanted to scream, not because it was fake, but because something about it wasn't. The way Genevieve touched her waist, the way her hand lingered a second too long, the way her eyes flicked Tim's lips when she laughed at something that wasn't even funny. These weren't rehearsed gestures. They were habits being born in real time. They were mistakes. And Genevieve looked like she knew it. By sunset, Adrienne was satisfied. "You're glowing," he told them. "Honestly, if you ever do get married for real, I want to plan the wedding." Lena smiled with dead eyes. "Can't wait." That night, they returned to the room. The silence was different now, louder, heavier, like a storm gathering in the distance. Lena stood by the window, arms crossed. Back to Genevieve. I'm not going to chase you, she said quietly. I know, Genevieve replied. And I'm not going to keep pretending I don't feel what I feel just because you're scared. I never asked you to feel anything. That's not how feelings work. Lena turned to face her. I didn't come here to fall for you. I came here to leave, to disappear. But you looked at me like I was supposed to matter, like I already did. And I don't know what to do with that now. Genevieve's face was unreadable. You don't matter, she said coldly. Lena flinched. Wow. You're not supposed to. That was the deal. You help me. I help you. No one gets attached. Too late, Lena whispered. For which one of us? Genevieve didn't answer. Lena took a step forward. You don't get to kiss me with your eyes and then act like it didn't happen. I didn't kiss you, but you wanted to. Another step and I'm standing right here waiting for you to stop running. Genevieve's voice was razor thin. Don't wait for me. Why not? Lena's voice cracked. Because I might disappoint you. You already are. Silence. A breath. Another. Then Genevieve's mask cracked. Just a flicker. A shadow across her face. A tremor in her voice. I don't know how to do this. Not without breaking it. Lena reached for her hand. Took it. Held it. Then let's break it together. Genevieve looked down at their hands and for the first time didn't pull away. They lay in bed again that night. Not touching. Not speaking. But this time, Genevieve's hand reached across the sheets, found me, and stayed. No kiss. No declaration. Just the soft, steady proof that something had changed. And neither of them was pretending anymore. The warmth of Genevieve's hand stayed with me long after she fell asleep. It was strange, the way something so small could feel so massive, a touch, nothing more. But it burned through her skin like a brand. They hadn't spoken a word when it happened. No kiss, no promises, no declarations, just fingers laced together in the dark and the quiet. Unmistakable truth of two women slowly unraveling for each other. By morning, Genevieve was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, staring out the window as if the lake held the answers she was too afraid to ask. Lena stirred, but didn't speak. She didn't want to break the fragile silence that had become its own kind of intimacy. Eventually, Genevieve turned. We leave after lunch, she said. Adrienne wants one last walk through the gardens. Nothing dramatic. Lena sat up slowly. Nothing dramatic. Got it. Well, just pretend not to be falling apart inside. Genevieve didn't answer, but her lips twitched like she wanted to smile and couldn't quite remember how. The morning passed in a blur of polite nods and perfectly framed photos. They walked the garden paths like models of domestic bliss. Lena's hand tucked neatly into the crook of Genevieve's arm, their shadows falling across manicured hedges and rose-lined walkways. But every step felt heavier now because everything had shifted, and neither of them could pretend otherwise. Genevieve was quieter than usual, but softer, too. She looked at me like she was trying to memorize her, like she didn't want to forget how this felt. And Lena, God, she wanted to touch her again. Not for the cameras, not for the lie. Just to feel that skin against hers to see if Genevieve would melt or run. Probably both. They returned to the estate in silence. The car ride was long, and Lena dozed off at some point, head tilted toward Genevieve's shoulder. She expected Genevieve to shift away. She didn't. When Lena woke, her head was still there. Her hand was resting in Genevieve's lap, and Genevieve was staring straight ahead like the world would shatter if she looked down. Back at the mansion, the energy was different. Something tense hung in the air. Lena noticed it immediately. The way the staff exchanged glances. The way the house manager greeted them at the door with a strange smile. Genevieve noticed too. What is it? She asked, voice sharp. The manager hesitated. A guest arrived this morning unannounced. Who? Genevieve's voice dropped. Your mother. Lena felt the words like ice against her spine. They found her in the drawing room, all pearls and power, sipping tea like she'd summoned the entire house into submission. Vivian Valcourt was as terrifying as Lena imagined. Elegant, calculating, and immediately unimpressed. "So this is the bride," she said coolly, looking Lena up and down. "You resemble Sabine more than I expected. How convenient." Lena tried not to flinch. Genevieve stepped between them. "Mother, you're slipping," Vivian said calmly. "Your desperation is showing. You have no right to be here." "I have every right. You carry the name, and if you plan to tarnish it with another scandal, I'll see to it myself that this farce ends before it begins." Lena opened her mouth. Genevieve cut her off. "She stays. She's not even real. Neither was Sabine. At least Lena doesn't lie to my face and sleep with ski instructors." Vivian raised a perfectly plucked brow. "You're in love with a stranger because she looks like the woman who left you." "I'm not in love with her," Genevieve said too quickly. Lena felt her stomach twist. Vivian looked at her again. "Do you believe that?" Lena didn't answer. She couldn't. Later, alone in the garden, Lena sat on the edge of the fountain, hands trembling. She'd faced critics, curators, landlords who threatened to throw her out. But Vivian Valcourt had sliced through her confidence with 2 sentences. Genevieve found her there. No guards, no cameras, just the 2 of them and the night creeping in. "You handled her well," Genevieve said quietly. "I didn't say anything." "Exactly. Is she always like that?" "Worse." Lena looked at her. "Why did you say you're not in love with me?" Genevieve closed her eyes. "Because if I say I am, I can't control what happens next. And if I say I'm in love with you," Genevieve's eyes flew open, "you're not. Maybe I am. Maybe I've been falling since the second you looked at me like I was someone worth looking at." Don't. What? Don't give me that." "Why not?" Lena's voice cracked. "Because you don't want to love someone who reminds you of what you lost." "Because I don't want to lose again," Genevieve said, voice barely above a whisper. "And you? You make me want things I'm not allowed to want." Lena stepped forward. "Then take it anyway." Genevieve looked at her like she was seeing her for the first time. And then finally, she kissed her. It wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was everything they'd been holding back. Anger, desire, fear, longing, all of it crashing together like waves against the shore. Lena's hands tangled in Genevieve's hair. Genevieve pulled her closer with the desperation of someone who hadn't let herself need anything in years. When they broke apart, breathless, foreheads pressed together, Lena whispered, "So still not in love with me?" Genevieve laughed, a sound she'd never made before. Terrifyingly so. And for the first time, the lie they'd built began to look uncomfortably like the truth. They didn't sleep, not from fear or doubt, not tonight. They stayed awake in Genevieve's bed, wound in silence and each other, eyes open in the dark, neither daring to be the first to shift. The kiss had altered the gravity of everything. No more posing, no more sheltering behind stiff frames and managed glances. It had been real, raw, frightening. Now the air between them throbbed with its own pulse. Genevieve lay on her side facing Lena, her hand resting in the small space between them, no contact, but close enough that every breath Lena drew felt like a dare. "I can't sleep," Genevieve whispered at last. "Neither can I," Lena said. A quiet beat. "Not since the first night," Genevieve admitted. "Why?" "Because you're always there, breathing like everything survives on control. And I keep waiting for the moment you finally let it go." Genevieve's exhale almost formed a smile. "What if I already have?" Lena reached across and let her fingers graze Genevieve's. "Then I guess we're both doomed." Genevieve didn't pull away. She studied Lena as if committing her to memory, as if her face were a language still being learned. "Tell me something true," she said. "About you, not the act." Lena paused, then answered. "I dropped out of art school twice. I said I didn't believe in the system. But mostly I didn't believe in myself." Genevieve's gaze didn't waver. "You're brave." "No," Lena said. "I'm impulsive, reckless, maybe a little desperate." "Then why come to the wedding?" "I told myself it was curiosity, but I think I was searching for something. I just didn't know what." Genevieve was quiet a long moment. And if you found it? Lena stared back. Did I? Genevieve didn't reply. Instead, she closed the space between them and touched her mouth to Lena's against lower now. Less fire, more ache. It wasn't for show, and it wasn't hunger. It was surrender. When she drew back, her voice scraped soft. You terrify me. Likewise, Lena whispered. Then the distance vanished completely. Genevieve kissed her like the world might end and she meant to feel everything first. Lena answered like she finally had permission to want. Hands moved without hesitation, mapping one another with a reverence that edged on worship. Genevieve's fingers slid under M's silk nightgown, tracing the curve of her spine, the softness of her skin, every inch she had only dared to imagine. Lena gasped against her mouth, her own hands finding Genevieve's waist, her neck, her jaw, pulling her closer, grounding her in something that felt more than physical. They didn't speak. There were no words left that could carry what was happening between them. Only touch, only breath, only the rhythm of two hearts no longer pretending. When Genevieve finally pushed me onto her back and hovered over her, eyes dark with something deeper than lust, me arched up to meet her without hesitation. It was a dance, slow and sacred, and unlike anything either of them had ever known. Every movement was a confession, every kiss a question answered. And when they came apart, trembling and flushed, Lena buried her face in Genevieve's neck. Breathless, still terrified? She asked. Genevieve's voice was shaky. Worse. Good, Lena murmured, pressing a kiss against her collarbone. Means we're doing this right. They woke up hours later tangled in sheets and each other, the morning sun slipping through the curtains like a secret. Genevieve was already watching her when Lena opened her eyes. You stayed, she said softly. You didn't run. Why would I? Lena replied. You're not the disaster I expected. No, Genevieve said. I'm worse. I make people believe things I can't give them. Lena sat up, reached for her hand again. You're not Sabine, and I'm not here for her ghost. Then why are you here? Because I want to see who you are when you stop pretending to be untouchable. Genevieve looked away. That might take time. Good thing I'm not in a hurry, Lena said. I never wanted a perfect woman. I just wanted one who'd stopped lying to herself long enough to be seen. But their fragile morning didn't last. By the time they went downstairs, Adrien was waiting, his face pale, his phone in hand. We have a problem, he said. What now? Genevieve asked the tabloids. Adrien said, voice tight. They're running a piece on Sabine with dates, with photos. Someone talked, and they're saying you replaced her with a lookalike to save your empire. Genevieve's jaw clenched. Who leaked it? Doesn't matter. It's out. Adrien looked at me. You're going to be torn apart. They'll say you tricked her. That you're the backup bride, the faker, the fraud. Lena's stomach twisted. So, what do we do? Genevieve looked at her for a long time, then said, we don't hide. What do you mean? I mean, we go public. Not the fake narrative. Not the gallery story, the real one. We tell the truth, Genevieve. If we keep lying, they control the story. But if we own it, if we say we fell in love by accident, because of a mistake, because of something neither of us saw coming, they can't weaponize it anymore. You want to tell the world this started with a wedding I wasn't invited to? Yes, Genevieve said and ended with the only thing that was real. Which is what? Lena asked. Genevieve took her hand in front of everyone. The interview was scheduled for Friday afternoon national broadcast. Prime slot. Cameras. Questions. Pressure. Lena sat in the makeup chair, watching her reflection tremble slightly beneath the lights, wondering how the hell she'd gotten from accidental wedding crasher to fake wife of an A's, about to go live on television and tell the world the truth. Genevieve stood across the room, arms crossed, expression unreadable. But Lena could feel the tension vibrating off her. They hadn't spoken much since the decision was made. Not because of anger, but because the weight of what they were about to do had settled between them like a fog they couldn't see through yet. Adrien paced the hallway outside like a man about to be executed. This is either going to be brilliant or burn us all alive, he muttered. There is no middle ground. Lena looked at Genevieve. Are you ready? Genevieve's voice was quiet but steady. I don't think I've ever been ready for anything in my life, but I'm still here. That was enough. The stage was minimal, sleek, modern, a glass table between them, and the host, velvet chairs. Soft lighting design to make everything look more honest. As the cameras rolled, the host began with practiced grace. Tonight we're joined by Genevieve Valcourt and her wife Lena Mercado, who have taken the media by storm over the last few weeks. The public has been fascinated by your sudden marriage, the speculation, and now the leak about Sabine Serrano. You've agreed to speak openly. Why now? Genevieve's fingers brushed me under the table. Not for show, for strength. She spoke first. Because we're tired of lies. And because the truth is more interesting than fiction. Lena's voice was clear. There was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to be there. I received a wedding invitation meant for someone else. I went out of curiosity. And before I knew it, I was standing at the altar. And why didn't you walk away? The host asked. Lena looked at Genevieve. Because I saw her, and I thought maybe the mistake was the most honest thing I'd felt in years. The host turned to Genevieve. So you chose to keep her beside you, even knowing she wasn't the woman you were supposed to marry. Genevieve's lips curved, not into a smile, but something softer. I didn't choose her because of what she looked like. I chose her because the moment she stood beside me, everything that had been wrong started to feel like it made sense. You fell in love. Genevieve's voice didn't tremble. Yes, quietly, accidentally, completely. The host leaned forward. What do you say to the critics who claim this was orchestrated? That me was brought in to salvage your reputation. Lena didn't hesitate. If I wanted attention, I would have said yes to every interview request and brand deal thrown at me the last 2 weeks. I haven't taken a single dollar. I'm not here to save anyone. I'm here because I love her. Genevieve's hand found hers again, and I won't apologize for that anymore. The interview ended with applause. Not from the audience. There wasn't one. But from the crew. Quiet, respectful. A camera operator wiped their eyes. Adrien collapsed into a chair backstage like he'd survived a war. I can't believe you pulled it off, he whispered. You turned chaos into a love story. Lena looked at Genevieve, who hadn't let go of her hand. It already was one, she said. But the storm came fast. By the next morning, their names were everywhere. Headlines screamed about deception and redemption. Old photos of Sabine surfaced. Comparison shots, speculation. Some called it brave, some called it insane. Lena's inbox filled with everything from adulation to death threats. But none of it mattered the moment Genevieve stepped into the bedroom that night, holding her phone with white-knuckled fingers. My mother wants to meet with you, she said. Lena blinked. Lena privately. Tomorrow. She didn't say why. Great, Lena muttered. Maybe she wants to personally slap me with a rolled-up contract. Genevieve exhaled. You don't have to go. No, Lena said, standing. I want to. Why? Because if I'm going to be part of your life, she has to know who I really am. Not a replacement. Not a mistake. Just me. Genevieve stepped closer, brushing her knuckles against his cheek. You're not a mistake. Then let me prove it to her. The next day, Lena Vivian Valcourt in the sunroom of a private hotel suite. Elegant, brutalist, quiet. Vivian sipped from a porcelain cup and gestured for me to sit. You don't look nervous, she said. I am, Lena replied. But I don't believe in pretending with people like you. Wise? A beat passed. You understand why I came to dismantle me. To protect my daughter from chaos. From grief. From herself. She doesn't need protection. She needs freedom. To feel. To choose. Vivian sat down her cup. She's not built for self-love. Neither am I, Lena said. But we both deserve it. You think this is forever. I think it's worth fighting for. Vivian studied her for a long time, then finally nodded. I believe you. Does that mean you'll stop trying to end it? No. But I'll stop trying to pretend you're not already inside the story. When we returned to the mansion, Genevieve was waiting by the window, eyes searching hers. Well, she asked. Lena stepped forward, wrapped her arms around Genevieve's waist, and whispered, I think she's going to let me stay. Genevieve didn't respond right away. She just pulled her in tighter. I would have fought for you anyway. I know. They stood there quiet, wrapped in something that finally felt like certainty. They had told the truth. They had survived the storm. And even if the world still doubted them, they didn't doubt each other anymore. Genevieve disappeared for 12 hours. No text, no calls, no cryptic notes slid under the door. Just silence. Lena tried not to panic, but it was like holding her breath underwater. She could only stay calm for so long before her chest had with questions. She knew Genevieve, knew her patterns, her tendency to retreat when emotions tangled too tightly. And yet, after everything they'd shared, the interview, the kiss, the night that had rewritten the rules between them, the silence felt heavier this time, like absence had sharp edges. Lena wandered through the house, restless, anxious, avoiding Adrienne's hovering concern and Vivian's cool glances. She ended up in the garden, staring at the fountain where they'd first kissed. The water was still mocking. She thought about how fast everything had happened. How it started with the wrong name on an invitation and became a love too big to fake. She wasn't meant to belong to this world. She wasn't supposed to matter. And yet, somehow, she did. Genevieve came back a little after midnight. Lena heard the door, her heartbeat faltering at the hush of footsteps on marble. She went downstairs to find Genevieve in the foyer barefoot, hair windblown, clutching a velvet box in both hands. Her eyes were red, not from tears. Genevieve didn't cry but from sheer exhaustion. Where the hell were you? Lena asked, voice low and shaking. I thought you were gone. Genevieve didn't answer at once. She closed the distance, stopped inches away, and held out the box. Open it. Lena looked from her face to the velvet, then carefully lifted the lid. Inside lay a ring. Not just any ring, an antique, delicate piece. A dark sapphire set in white gold, circled by tiny diamonds shaped like thorns. It looked like it belonged to someone who didn't want to be saved. Lena blinked. Is this a joke? Do I look like I'm joking? Genevieve's voice was soft, almost unsteady. I went to the estate vault. My great-grandmother's ring. No one has touched it in 50 years. Lena stared up at her, stunned. Why? Genevieve drew a breath. Because I want to marry you. For real this time. Lena went still. You're serious. I'm terrified. Good, Lena said, though she was, too. But I'm done pretending this is temporary. I don't care if the world thinks we're insane. I don't care if my mother never approves. I don't care that it began with a lie. What matters is what's true now. And what's true is this. I want you. I want your chaos, your stubbornness, your art, your voice when you fight me, your laugh when I say something awful. I want the way you make me feel like everything I've built is worth less than your honesty. Lena's eyes stung. You don't do romantic speeches. I've been practicing alone in my car for 3 hours, she admitted, then whispered, marry me. Not for the cameras, not for headlines, for me, for us, because no one else makes me feel like myself the way you do. Lena looked at the ring, then at the woman holding her breath. This is insane, she said, and I want it more than I've wanted anything, Genevieve replied. Lena's hands trembled as she took the box. Okay, she whispered. Yes. Genevieve exhaled as if she hadn't breathed in weeks. You're serious? I'm insane, too. That's why we work. Genevieve leaned in and kissed her, deep and slow. Nothing performative, just relief, hunger, and something that tasted like home. They did not announce it publicly. Not yet. Not to Adrienne. Not to Vivian. Not to the press, waiting for the next scandal. They kept it between them, a secret too sacred to share, at least for a moment. That night they curled into bed together, limbs tangled, the velvet box on the nightstand like a quiet promise. "You're sure?" Lena whispered into Genevieve's neck. "More than I've ever been about anything, even your wine cellar." Genevieve smiled in the dark. "Especially that." They fell asleep like that. Close, peaceful, something tender blooming between them that neither had a name for yet. But it didn't need a name. Not anymore. The next morning, Adrienne burst into the bedroom with a scream. "You're trending worldwide again, and not for a scandal. They're calling you the new face of modern romance." Genevieve groaned, burying her face in the pillow. "God help us." Lena laughed. "Do we tell them?" Genevieve turned her head, kissed her bare shoulder. "Not yet. Let's keep one thing ours just for a little while." Lena nodded and they stayed in bed wrapped in each other while the world outside spun with headlines and speculations, still unaware that the love story they had doubted from the start had just become real and permanent. It was supposed to stay secret just for a few days, just until they could breathe, until the noise died down, until they figured out what came next. But nothing ever stayed quiet in Genevieve's world. Not whispers, not mistakes, and certainly not love. The ring had barely stayed hidden for 48 hours before someone noticed. A staff member, maybe, or one of Adrienne's assistants, or a camera lens that caught the shimmer of white gold. When Lena reached for Genevieve's hand in the garden, it didn't matter who. It only mattered that the photo leaked, and when it did, it exploded. Not just gossip headlines, global viral. Genevieve Valcourt reproposes. Is the chaos couple now official? From mistake to marriage. Lena Mercado's diamond redemption. The ring, the kiss, the look in her eyes. Suddenly they weren't just trending. They were iconic and under attack. Lena sat frozen on the edge of the bed, the article glowing on her phone screen like a siren. The picture was beautiful, candid, intimate. She was smiling, her hand in Genevieve's. Sunlight glinting off the sapphire like it was part of the sky. But it wasn't the beauty that made her stomach knot. It was the comments, the venom, the accusations. Fake, staged, a PR stunt sequel. She's just another Sabine with better timing. How convenient that she got a ring right when the scandal started to fade. What's her price? She dropped the phone, her hands shaking. It's happening again, she whispered. They're tearing me apart like I don't even exist. Genevieve walked in, phone in hand, expression hard. I saw it. Do you think it was Adrienne? No, he wouldn't sabotage us. Not now. So who? Someone close. But that doesn't matter. It matters to me. Lena snapped. Because now they think I'm using you. That I played you into a ring. That this was some long con. Let them think it, Genevieve said. They don't know the truth. But they think they do. And they're louder than we are. Then let's be louder. But Lena didn't want to fight back this time. She didn't want another statement, another interview, another performance. She wanted space, stillness, air. I need to leave the house, she said alone. Genevieve hesitated. I don't think that's a good idea. I can't breathe in here, not with everyone watching me like I'm a scandal waiting to happen. Then I'll go with you. No, Lena said firmly. I need to do this on my own just for a few hours. Genevieve looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Okay, but take a driver and keep your phone on. Lena kissed her forehead. I'll come back. I know she didn't expect the ambush. It wasn't a crowd, just one person. A woman with sunglasses and a press badge waiting outside the cafe. Lena ducked into for air. Lena Mercado. The woman asked. No comment. Lena said automatically. But the woman held out her phone playing a recording. Sabine's voice. She's not who she pretends to be. She used me. She'll use Genevieve, too. Lena's blood went cold. Where did you get that? Anonymous source. That's not proof of anything. It's enough to cast out. Lena stepped closer. If you post that, you're not reporting. You're spreading poison. Do you even care who gets hurt? Truth is subjective, the woman said. And pain sells. Lena turned and left without another word, her heart pounding. When she got home, Genevieve was already waiting. Her face was pale, her hands clenched. "You saw it," Lena said. "Adrien sent it." Genevieve replied. "He's furious. He's threatening legal action." It's Sabine's voice, spliced together from old voicemails, manipulated. "But the damage is done. They'll believe it. Some will." And paced the room, rage and fear twisting inside her. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being the girl they love to hate." Genevieve crossed to her, grabbed her hands. "You're not alone in this. You never were. But I feel alone. Every time they drag my name, every time they reduce me to a role I didn't ask for." "Then let's take it back," Genevieve said. "Let's show them the woman you really are." "How?" Lena whispered. Genevieve's eyes didn't flinch. "We make the announcement ourselves. A live event, public. No filters, no handlers, no scripts, just us, just the truth." Lena stared at her. "You want to tell the world you're marrying me for real in front of everyone?" "No," Genevieve said. "I want to tell the world I'm marrying you because I'm in love with you. And if they can't handle that, they're not the ones I'm living for." Lena exhaled, her pulse still racing, but something in her steadied. She looked at Genevieve, not the woman from the headlines, not the cold Aries, but the one who held her hand at night when no one else was watching. "Okay," she said, "let's burn the script." And that night, as the team began planning the live reveal, Lena lay beside Genevieve in the dark and whispered, "Promise me something, anything." They decided to tell the truth on the steps of the Volcourt Foundation. No ballroom, no exclusives, just a Mick, the city, and their hands laced tight. When Lena admitted she'd walked into the wrong wedding and left with the right person, and Genevieve called her the first thing she'd ever chosen for herself. The kiss that followed flipped headlines from scandal to fairy tale. The internet crowned them glitch wives. But what mattered was the way Genevieve dropped every wall in public and still didn't let go. A 30-day countdown began. Lena insisted on breathing room, on making it theirs, yet pressure swarmed. Designers begged. Lists became landmines. And somewhere in the hush between fittings and security briefings, Genevieve vanished to cut off Sabine's last feed to the press. She came back shaken, said it was handled, and the next morning sunlight gilded the Volcourt vineyard until a bomb threat cleaved the air. In an instant, chairs scraping, guests scattering, Genevieve a shield and a voice in Lena's ear. "We'll rebuild the altar anywhere, anytime." They did not wait for permission. That night they scrapped the plan, outran the noise, and 3 days later found a cliffside chapel swallowed in ivy and sea wind. Barefoot, wrinkled suit, silk on skin and salt in their vows. They married with a village witness and a priest who didn't ask questions. They slept on the stone floor beneath a broken window, woke to birdsong, and told no one for a week. Back in the city, Vivian's sharp look softened into a sigh. Adrien cried like opera, and the press late to the only story that mattered could only marvel. Lena's show, Accidentally Yours, sold out in 3 days. Genevieve pretended not to be the anonymous buyer while calling her impossible, and Lena called it marriage. They chose a brown stone over a palace, hung a photo of the chapel wall where they'd said the real words, and let life spread out in laughter and paint and ordinary light. Sunburn in Thalassa, rain in Lumiere City, arguments about cinema that no one won. Sometimes, in the quiet, they traced the line back to a wrong envelope and an impossible seat. They refused the myth of inevitability in favor of something better, improbable, stubborn, missilly earned. And when the world went hunting for the next uproar, the two of them lay in a room washed with moonlight, rings catching a thin silver edge, still terrified, still each other's, holding on tighter than the noise could ever pry apart.